Hello and welcome to the Post Up Podcast. This is Cyrus Rogers.
And this is Kaunda, Chama. How are you all doing?
I'm pretty sure they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get any auditory responses. But we're happy to be back. The Post Up Podcast really is a pleasure to be presenting with you, Kaunda.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crazy things about doing this is that we forget sometimes that we get to talk about one of our first loves. And that's just basketball.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about my wife. But that's fine.
I ain't doing that on this podcast. But anyway, let's get into the basketball debates and really the kind of thing that we need to look out for, because there's been a lot that's caught our eye this past week in the NBA, particularly just how competitive the Western Conference is. And there's always been these debates about, is the West better than the East? Yes, it does seem that way, right? But I think also when you look at it, it's got to do with the fact that the East, it seems like the guys take their foot off the gas a little bit more. But when you look at the Western Conference, I mean, it is stacked. It's like a pileup. It's a traffic jam.
Look, it just looks that, no, it just doesn't look. It just is that more competitive, if you ask me. I mean, they say numbers don't lie, and if you look at the numbers, and you just look at the caliber of players, and not to say that other players are not NBA caliber, but I'm just talking about, like, if you're talking about point guards, if I can rattle off 3 point guards, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook. Steph Curry, Russell
two.
Westbrook, that's two. Oh, I need one. Let me give you Chris Paul.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying, because you're talking about the caliber of the point guards, and that's it. You've got these teams who are high caliber teams, all facing off to try and get to that top 8 spot in the West. And right now, who would have thought that, 19 games, 20 games into the season, the LA Clippers would be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference.
Cyrus, to be honest, I've been really surprised by teams like the Los Angeles Clippers, because they're that team. We always know them to do pretty well. Then maybe they have an almost postseason run, and things go wrong at the end. Remember, they would always have these, like, either Chris Paul or Blake Griffin injuries.
Yeah.
Well, this is
something would derail them along the way.
Derail them somewhere there. But now this is the post Chris Paul, post Blake Griffin
DeAndre
era.
Jordan,
post DeAndre Jordan. So it's no longer Lob City, and I think they're working with a new formula, and it seems to be working. I'm quite impressed.
Doc Rivers is one heck of a coach, and you see it in the way he's utilized the talent at his disposal, because a lot of people might have thought they would have gone the way of the Grizzlies. But this is also, and no disrespect to Memphis in this regard, but Memphis are not the kind of team that NBA fans on the African continent are staying up late to watch. They might be becoming that, but the thing is that they don't play a fast-paced kind of game. It's that grit and grind, it's a tough watch sometimes. But when you're a fan of basketball and you're seeing the action being played in the post, you realize that, man, this is a game of rugged strength, raw power, and also accuracy. Because when you look at the guys who are scoring the points for the Clippers, you're seeing a Lou Williams come to the party. You're seeing Tobias Harris come to the party. Montrezl Harrell, Danilo Gallinari, and these are all big guys.
Yeah.
They're all big guys. There was one point in a recent game where they had Boban Marjanovic on the floor at the same time with all the other bigs, and it was like a forest. like the Clippers were playing with a forest, but they were still scoring, and then they were limiting their opponents' scoring options. So you really see that Doc Rivers he's a master of so many different trades. And that's what I love.
He's a championship-winning coach, and I think he knows how to work with the pieces he has, which is a brilliant thing. I mean, he took the Boston, Big Three to the 2008 championship, so he's got that caliber in him. And then he came to the Clippers. He's had some challenging, seasons there at the Clippers, but I think maybe this is an opportunity to redeem himself, if you will.
And that's it, because one of the things we forget is that sometimes a coach can come with championship caliber experience and what have you, and then put in a different environment, they struggle. And I think that's sort of what happened with Doc Rivers at the Clippers early on, in the sense that, they had good players. Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Lob City was in effect, and they were doing some amazing things. Then they blew it all up, and everyone thought, okay, fine, now they're going to just be a home for terrible contracts and what have you. But somehow Doc manages to get the most out of guys, even after trading his own son.
Well, look,
I mean, that's a strictly business.
It's a business side.
Sorry, son, it's strictly business.
Yeah.
But look at the way that they're playing, and you see the caliber of the man. I mean, we're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors a little bit later on the podcast, but look at what the sort of top 10 in the West looks like. Clippers number 1, Warriors number 2, and they've started to sort of pick things up again. But then the Denver Nuggets, another sort of unheralded team, in the sense that they've played well. They just missed out on the playoffs last season. Now look at them, a number 3 seed at the moment. Memphis Grizzlies, Oklahoma City Thunder, Portland Trailblazers, LA Lakers, and the New Orleans Pelicans at number 8, Houston Rockets 9, Sacramento Kings 10. I mean, the teams outside of that, you got the Spurs, the Timberwolves, the Jazz, all languishing.
Do you know what's beautiful about this, Cyrus, is if you look at this, the standings right now, same time last season, half of these teams wouldn't be where they are right now.
Yeah.
First of all, the Lakers would not be where they are right now.
Well, getting Bron definitely helps.
Definitely helps. But just look at how it's looking. The Thunder would have been there. Maybe the Memphis Grizzlies wouldn't have been that high up.
Yeah.
Neither would have been the Denver Nuggets. And I'm talking like start of the season. The Sacramento Kings, they would not have been top 10.
No.
Which is impressive, and it just goes to show you that a few changes here and there in a squad
it can change.
Big
And this is the thing, because one of the things we haven't mentioned about the Kings, and what's important, is that they're not just top 10 with a losing record, they're top 10 with a 500 record.
Yeah.
They're 10-10. I mean, that says a lot about where they are as a franchise. They're trying to go for it, they're taking it to teams, and the youth is coming to the fore. I love De'Aaron Fox. I said to you at the beginning of the season, when I started watching the guy play, I thought this is going to be a candidate for most improved player of the season. And he's showing his chops.
Cyrus, just not De'Aaron Fox
yeah.
by himself. Look at who he's playing with. Buddy
Hield.
That 1-2 punch, those guys are playing at lightning speed.
Yeah.
They remind me of a young Dwayne Wade, if you will. Just piling up that mileage. If it's a car, you'd want to trade it in really quick. Like, oh my word, this car. The miles.
Better days.
The miles it's racking up. I need to sell it soon. These guys are playing fast. Willie Cauley-Stein also stepping up.
Yeah.
And I think even Iman Shumpert every now and then shows those.
He has his games.
Those hints of the old him. And it's impressive to see a team like that. I think Vlade Divac has done a great thing. At first, I wasn't sure where he was going with it, because I was like, oh my word.
It's taken a while.
Yeah, what is he doing to this
It's taken
team?
a while.
This is a franchise that had the likes of Chris Webber, even Isaiah Thomas, the second Isaiah Thomas, not the OG Isaiah Thomas. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying, wow, what is Vlade doing here?
But this has always been the
coming
thing.
around.
Yeah, everyone's, and this is also where, some people then attribute it to luck, but this is a man who's tried to facilitate for the rest of his team to do well. And look at the pieces that they've been accumulating over the years. Fine, they had to let go of DeMarcus Cousins a couple of seasons ago, but when you look at their future and the upside, you've got the likes of Bogdanovic, who's looking good. You mentioned Willie Cauley-Stein. There's a couple other players there. Marvin Bagley III, who's really got a bright future. Harry Giles III, he's also going to be another great addition in that team long term. So the Kings have got pieces that, utilized correctly, could really go far. But the Western Conference is just stacked with teams who are either hugely stacked with potential or starting to show that they can actually do things on a consistent basis. Now compare that to the Eastern Conference, where you have, and we love seeing the Toronto Raptors do well, and Kawhi to do well with them. So them as the number 1 seed in the East just looks good and it looks right. But look at the other guys behind them, because at the beginning of the season, you would have been like Boston, if they're not the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed at the least.
Number 2, yeah.
They are currently 6.5 games back from the Raptors. Wow. Their record is the same as the Orlando Magic. And I gave you a lot of stick at the beginning of the season when you said the Orlando Magic, because I couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it. And frankly, I don't think the players saw it too, but they've changed things around in that franchise. So what's happening in the East? I mean, why is it that it's not as competitive?
Look, Cyrus, first of all, I think perception is a big thing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, ballers are balling in the league. And you can take a Boston Celtics and put it in the Western Conference and they will pull up their socks.
Yeah.
It's just that in the East, looking at who their competitors are, do they really need to pull up their socks that much?
Okay, so you're talking about it in terms of what happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers last season.
Yeah.
They finished what, the number 4 seed?
Number 4 seed, but they knew that finishing number 4 isn't really bad, because who are they going to play, the 5th seed? And having LeBron on their team at that time, it was an easy walkover, you know what I'm saying? But just, these teams are no mugs.
Yeah.
The Toronto Raptors, this is a crazy nice team, if I can get colloquial with it.
There we
this
go.
Is a nice
you got
team.
to.
The Milwaukee Bucks, look at how they've been playing. Look at what Giannis is becoming. Even Malcolm Brogdon, he's reminding us that he was once a rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Look at Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
Chris Middleton is playing some great ball. And
Eric Bledsoe.
Eric Bledsoe is balling out. He's reminding us why the Suns wanted him in the first place, and maybe they just had to get rid of him. Look at who did they get from
Brook
the
Lopez is there.
Lopez is there. He's performing well. The Philadelphia 76ers. This is a team that's exciting me. So number 3 at the moment. Bringing on Jimmy Butler, it's one of the best things they could have done.
I'll tell you something, and this is a real hope of mine. I hope that Jimmy Butler sticks with the Philadelphia 76ers past this season.
Well,
There's
in
no
the
given.
early hours of this morning, he said this could become
This
home.
could be home. It feels like it could be home.
It feels like
but
it could
I
be
know a
home.
lot of people who've said stuff like that and have moved all over the country,
Yeah.
But it seems to make sense. And when you add him to the likes of a Joel Embiid, they are solid competitors. These guys have got the same heart, the same drive.
Yep.
And we were talking about Jimmy Butler a couple of podcasts ago, and I said he's got that killer instinct. Can you imagine those close games that the Sixers had a couple of like last season even? Who are they going to put the ball? Who are they going to give it to? Joel? Ben Simmons?
They were going to have to give it to Joel, but he's normally in the paint.
Yeah.
But he can hit a decent 3, but it's not his high percentage shot. Ben Simmons, I don't think he's
He
comfortable enough
doesn't
to
have
go
a
clutch.
jumper.
They didn't have Markel Fultz at the time. Maybe JJ Redick.
But this is the thing, is that when you have to start adding maybes, then you're not at the point where you're really going to be competitive. Jimmy Butler takes maybe out the equation, and it's like, look, he actually even takes control. Because when you look at the plays, that's not a play in the last game when he hit a game winner. It's not a play that you can see the coach saying, go ISO and see if you can shoot over that guy. No coach is going to draw up a play like that. But Jimmy is like, I trust myself, and I'm going to show you guys where you can trust me. And so you're seeing it happen in that team. But then the Sixers are still 3.5 games back behind the Toronto Raptors. They are ahead of the Detroit Pistons, who are also impressing. The Pacers are also doing quite well. The Magic obviously balling out of their socks in the 6th seed. The Celtics are the 7th seed. The Hornets are currently the 8th seed. And just behind them are the Nets, with the Washington Wizards completing the top 10 in the East. So you're looking at teams like the Heat, Knicks, Bulls, Cavs, and Hawks, who at this point already look like they're lottery teams.
Yeah, well, Cyrus, the teams right from like 11 to 15, you can tell, like you don't expect the Miami Heat to do much. I mean, who's leading them? It's a Dwayne Wade in potentially his final season.
No, this is his final season, not even potentially.
Yeah,
he said, I'm gone.
This is his swan song.
Yeah.
You look at the New York Knicks, they really need to rebuild and really need to get better. And
without
Porzingis, they're really, really struggling. The Chicago Bulls, also, they are
all at sea.
Yeah.
If the Chicago Bulls better watch out. There's an abattoir with their name on it. People are gonna have Texan steaks from that
Chicago Bull. Yeah. And then you got the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're doing pretty well, but
pretty well. They are 4-14.
No, for who they are.
No,
I'm looking at them for who they are.
We can tell, and we don't want to use the armored vehicle word here that begins with T, but J.R. Smith said it when they let him go. He said this is not a team dedicated to winning, and they look like that. So I don't want to say who they are, because the players on that team are not terrible.
No,
but they're clearly not. They're testing formulas.
Cyrus, you'll be surprised. They're going to do better than the 14th seed by the end of the season. What's happening at the Cavaliers now is when you lose a player the caliber of LeBron James, you're left wondering. Because what happened is he used to control the play all the time. Everything run through him. Then all of a sudden he's gone, and then you don't have a clear leader. What do you do?
I get that.
You start playing like the Minnesota Timberwolves, like a leaderless franchise.
But I think that the Timberwolves, you could see there were crazy issues off the court. Obviously, we saw all of that stuff.
No, I mean even pre Jimmy Butler Timberwolves, where there wasn't a clear leader.
They seemed rudderless.
Is it Cat? I mean, is it Cat or is it Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah.
You know, who is it?
No, and I get that, but I think the thing about the Cavs, though, is I don't think it was a leadership issue. I think you could tell that what was happening in the front office was really a sort of, if LeBron's going, let's see what we can do in terms of, you know, the lottery, because there's a certain player by the name of Zion Williamson who is looking like they could be the second coming of LeBron James, and if we've got a shot, we've got to take the shot,
we've got
right?
to take that shot.
So I think that, you know, you might have those kind of scenarios, but I mean, outside of that, just to sort of, you know, end off on the debate here, when we look at the East and we look at what's happening versus what's happening in the West, you've got a lot more. I'd say that in the Western Conference, the teams, when they face off, really look like anybody could win any of those games. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, the Raptors should be beating some of the teams who are, you know, a couple of spots behind them on the standings, and it seems to be a little bit more predictable.
It's either near, you know, anything can happen on any given
This
time.
fence you're sitting on, right?
No, I'm just saying, you're trying to say that it's easier to win in the East than it is in the West, which it's not. I'm telling you,
I'm not
any
saying
day
that-
the Raptors could lose to the Hawks.
That is true. I mean, they are kind of playing like the Lakers sometimes. Woo! See what I did there?
I know.
But I think the thing here, though, is that yes, I think the East can seem a little unpredictable, and especially when you've got, you know, the likes of the Bucks and Sixers sort of pushing the pace. It's just that at some point the Celtics are going to kick in. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're going to start moving up the standings. And then when you start looking at it, the teams you expected to be in the playoff places in the East are going to be in the playoff places in the East. Versus when you look at the Western Conference, you don't even know who's going to be the top seed, let alone who's going to be in the top 8 come the end of the season.
So would you say, just to round it off, that you know who's going to be the top seed in the East?
I think I can say with fair certainty that the Toronto Raptors are going to be the number 1 seed.
I see your Toronto Raptors,
Yeah.
and I give you the Boston Celtics. There is way too much talent at this franchise for them not to finish at the top.
Okay. I mean, look, we're going to leave that discussion there, you know, because there's a lot to get through. And we are just chowing through time. One of the things that I wanted to talk about here is a topic that I really love, because I'm a big fan of the underdog. And I think we all are big fans of the underdog story. Are we sleeping on certain point guards in the NBA? And I'm talking primarily of Kemba Walker, but also looking at Mike Conley and even Damian Lillard, because Damian Lillard gets his shine, but in a Western Conference that has the likes of Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul,
James Harden even.
Yeah, when he's called to, you know, are these guys really getting enough airtime as such? And I think Kemba in particular has just been incredible. He's like, in terms of points per game this season, he's one of the season leaders. He's actually number 4, averaging 28.2 points per game. That is the exact same amount of points as Kevin Durant.
Look, Cyrus, let's keep it 1,000 here.
Okay.
There is a lot of talent. There are a lot of talented point guards in the NBA.
Yeah.
Would you put Kemba in the top 5 point guards? No.
In the NBA?
In the NBA, no, because he's up against Steph Curry.
Yeah.
He's up against Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
He's up against John Wall.
Yeah.
He's up against Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, I'll give you, yeah.
And Dame Dollar. We'll put Dame Lillard at number 5.
We can do that. We could throw in the likes of Kyle Lowry, who's the assist leader by far.
Kyle Lowry,
assist leader by far. Just remember,
no, he's leading now. He's leading now. This is 20 games into the season. Well, there's 82 games, Cyrus.
And
now I'm talking
point.
about top point guards here. I'm talking top point guards,
Yeah.
right? So already he doesn't make it into your top 5. Who would
Well,
you replace?
he's ahead of John Wall, I'd have him.
You'd have him ahead of John Wall?
Yes. Yes, I would.
That is a discussion for another podcast. But let me tell you where I was going with this is that he plays in Charlotte.
Okay.
That could be a thing.
So in case you're listening, Mr. Michael Jordan, he just dissed your team. We're going to hopefully come and see you in Charlotte for the All-Star game.
February.
Just remember, it was Kaunda who said it, not me. But I hear you, though.
He plays in Charlotte, which is not a big market.
Yeah.
So even if he's shining, his team, first of all, is not coming out in the top seeds.
So let's put. Oh, I mean, I get you on that,
you
right?
understand where
I
I'm
get you on that. But using that same rationale, wouldn't D'Angelo Russell be putting up better numbers than he does because he plays at the Brooklyn Nets? It doesn't always equate, that the worse the team, the better the player, or the better your good player performs, because he's still got to play against other dudes.
I was going up. The worse your team,
Yeah.
even if he's flying off the hinges, he doesn't get that sort of exposure.
Okay.
So he's not
we're on the
pushing
same
the
page.
team up. Yeah.
And
He's
now
not
I
pushing
understand
the team
it.
up.
So you're saying
it's like
the
D'Angelo
reason
Russell
why we're sleeping on him is because we're not watching
We're not
him.
watching Charlotte.
Yeah.
You're not waking up
Okay.
every day at 2 a.m. Central Africa time trying to watch the Charlotte Hornets play the Brooklyn Nets.
No.
I'm just keeping it
No,
real here.
no, that is as
I'm just
real as it
keeping it real
gets.
here, right?
That's realer than Wu-Tang.
You know, and Wu-Tang is for the kids.
That is so true. I get
But you understand
I
what I
get you.
mean. So
And I guess,
had a Kemba Walker been at the San Antonio Spurs,
legend status.
maybe
right?
even the Milwaukee Bucks, even at the Philadelphia 76ers,
Yeah.
we would be looking at
a bigger team.
a bigger market, if you
Okay.
will. Even if you took Kemba Walker to
Yeah.
to the Western Conference.
Yeah, I get you, and he'd work on any of those teams. So we're in agreement here, because for some reason, I don't know why you snuck around the other side of the house to make your point, but we got there eventually.
I'm like Brahman on the fifth floor. I do not use the front door.
but this is the thing for me, because I look at these point guards, Mike Conley in particular, and he's another one, because Mike Conley plays on an unfashionable team, the Memphis Grizzlies, right? But when you look at the kinds of performances he's putting in, he's been so solid over the years that you can't think of a Memphis team without him. And when he was missing last season,
You saw what
you
happened.
saw it. You saw it. These dudes were terrible. They just had no direction, they didn't know who to turn to, and so you saw the value of a Mike Conley. But if Mike Conley were at the Lakers, say, right, we'd suddenly be like, yo, this Mike Conley guy's kind of good.
Yeah.
And it's about the spotlight.
Absolutely,
Right? So,
Cyrus. It's how bright your spotlight shines. Do you think we'd even speak of Lonzo Ball if he played in
wasn't-
Tennessee?
well, I don't think so. In fact, if Lonzo Ball was playing at the Pelicans, I think we'd be like, that Anthony Davis is pretty good.
You know what I'm saying? It's all
Yeah.
about the team you find yourself in and which market it's in. So, and Mike Conley, that's a solid. I mean, he's potentially got one of the biggest point guard contracts in the league. But that shows you how much worth
He's
the
rated,
franchise
yeah.
puts on him, right? But then again, he's playing in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're like, okay, he plays for the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies are not the flashiest of teams.
No.
They're not like the bright lights Los Angeles Lakers or even the Chicago Bulls or the New York Knicks. And the Chicago Bulls and the New York Knicks are not performing as well as the Memphis Grizzlies, but because of their markets, you even pay attention. Oh my word, there's the Chicago Bulls game.
Exactly.
You know?
And I totally agree with you. And so I guess this is the thing, that yes, we are not giving them enough love.
No.
And in actual fact, that's where we got to be. If we call ourselves basketball fans, we got to be shouting from the hilltops. Watch Kemba play, watch Mike Conley play, and we are watching Damian Lillard because he's in an exciting team in the Western Conference. Now,
in 2017, Coach Steve Kerr said that Damian Lillard was MVP potential.
Yeah.
That goes to show you. And that's Coach Steve Kerr, who coaches
Steph
the
Curry.
two-time MVP, Steph Curry.
So he knows what greatness is.
Knows what greatness
a former teammate of the great one.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, exactly.
Who also played at the San Antonio Spurs. But let's just...
We're talking about Steve Kerr, not Michael Jordan.
not Michael Jordan.
No, that's true. So he's been around greatness. He understands greatness. And so when he sees it, he's going to call it out. And I think Dame Dollar really deserves more praise. But he is getting his fair share of praise compared to Mike Conley and Kemba Walker.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, to try and wrap things up, I think we've got to talk about our African performance of the week here, right? And we've had some serious performances from guys. But let's also give our I think we're getting a sort of general selection of the same dudes. Giannis Antetokounmpo, unbelievable week. He's been so good. And even though his team might not necessarily win all of their games, he's always a standout guy. Pascal Siakam, he's just not going away. He's a serious cog in that Toronto Raptors machine.
That's exactly where I was going to go. I was going to say, let's mention Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's mention Joel Embiid, because those are always our front runners on a weekly basis. Let's even say Victor Oladipo, because he's always showing up as well. But recently, Pascal Siakam, the big man at the Toronto Raptors. I mean, we met him during the African
Yeah, we did.
In August. I remember chatting to him and saying, dude, you are doing great things. I think you're the next Serge Ibaka. And he laughed about it. We had a bit of a laugh. But he's putting up 14.5 points a game. 6.7 rebounds. and 2.3 assists.
And when he gets his high scoring games, he's doing it with such ease. He looks as if he's been scoring points for years.
You see, the thing with me, what I like about Pascal, we were talking about the grit and grind that is in Memphis. He's that kind of a player.
He typifies it.
He reminds me of a young Zebo, a young Zach Randolph. He gets in there, he does the dirty work, if you will. While other guys are trying to be flashy and
the
swaggy,
garbage man.
He's like, okay, I'm collecting all this garbage and I'm cleaning up these basketball streets. And that's Pascal Siakam for me. He puts on a mean mug and he gets in there.
Yeah, that's true. But then what's been interesting is we always tend to think of that hard work, the dirty work, and think of it only on the defensive end. And Pascal Siakam really defends well. But he's also showing his offensive chops.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's beautiful, because you're seeing this young man from Cameroon really take to the world stage and say, yes, I love my team in the Toronto Raptors, and I'm going to give them 1,000%. Your favorite phrase this week.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're seeing. Masai Ujiri really loves this guy. He spoke about him recently in terms of he feels that the future of the Toronto franchise is bright because they've got players like OG Anunoby, another one of our African brethren via the UK.
Yeah.
And then Pascal Siakam, who has showed that when you go through the process of playing in the G League, honing your skills, learning what the basketball fundamentals are, and then coming to the first team, you're really showing what the path to success is in the NBA.
Cyrus, I have the reason.
Yeah.
And you know the reason.
Is it Jerry Stackhouse?
No.
Because he's a great coach. He was coaching that Raptors 905.
He played in the Africa game.
He played in the Africa. We keep saying this every time. People play in the Africa game, they have breakout seasons afterwards.
There you go.
You got to come to the Africa game. Any NBA players, Yan Mahimi, we know you like our podcast. You are going to have a great season.
Absolutely.
Because the Africa game just brings out the best in players.
You watch them, Rudy Gay, all of them,
Yeah.
Danilo Gallinari.
Yeah.
They're going to have breakout seasons.
That's it.
Yan Mahimi,
Victor
we
Oladipo.
see you. Victor Oladipo, we see you. You guys are... It's going to be
Nail
great.
and head have met.
gonna
You're
be
definitely
great.
doing it. I mean, okay, look, so it's great that we talked about this because I love the Africa game. I love talking about how it is a great platform for young Africans. But more than all of that, I love watching our young Africans perform. And Pascal Siakam, you have got our focus this week. So that's it for the the NBA focus on the Post Up Show, the Post Up Podcast. Just remember, what you got to do is go to our socials at Post Up Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter, at Post Up Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. Watch our show, the Post Up Show, on YouTube. Just look for Post Up Podcast. You'll find it. And just keep watching, keep listening.
Absolutely, and keep loving basketball. It's the #1 sport globally.
So the #1 sport. I mean, I love basketball too.
That's why I said
but I ain't gonna lie.
It's the #2 sport globally.
Yeah, and you know what? Without a doubt, it's our love though.
Yeah, definitely.
So make sure you tune in next time.
See you next week.